Welcome to Brag About It. I'm Carleen Bragg.
And I'm Meghan Bragg.
And we are here to talk about the things that we're bragging about. We want to brag about the people in our community doing amazing things. But first, let's start here at home. Meghan, what do you got to brag about this week?
Okay, I'm bragging about that we bought my wedding band. I know! It's so exciting!
It's
happening!
Everything's happening!
We were in New York City,
Yes.
not just because of the wedding band, but for a wedding, and we got mine.
You're like, this is the time.
This is the time and the place.
Go for it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We love
so
it.
I'm excited about that. What about you?
I have made some really good purchases from some garage sales and thrift stores. I'm a thrift store garage sale queen.
Look
And
at
I know,
you.
hey, I made there's some steal the deals that I've gotten.
Okay, what's the one that you're...
I got a beautiful vintage shell planter, a hanging shell planter.
Okay.
$10.
$10.
I looked online, you had to spend
You can't beat it.
10 times that. So I was like, that's a steal of a deal. And I got two of them.
Definitely something to brag about.
Yes.
We love it. We also want to hear your brag, so send them on in
Please.
to us on Instagram. It's called the Brag About It Show. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
And we have some really amazing...
special guests today.
Yes. Carleen,
Yes.
take it away.
Keeper and kin doing amazing things for animals. Animals who need it most.
Right.
So let's go ahead and talk to them. We've got Chelsey and Tony Marino.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us. Great
Thank
to be
you
here.
guys for
Yeah.
being here. Okay, so you guys are Keeper and Kin. Let's talk about it. For the folks at home who don't know who you are, what do you do and what is this all about?
Why don't you start? You got this part.
Sure. So Keeper and Kin specifically is working with the behavioral rehabilitation for dogs formerly used in animal research. 95% of dogs used in research are beagles. So
Yeah.
a lot of times you'll hear us use the term like former animal research beagles or just former research beagles.
Right.
So all across the country, really all across the world, there are these beagles that are bred for solely the purposes of animal research and given into laboratories, universities, again, all across America for that. I won't get too much into what happens there. It can kind of be a kind of a heart-wrenching story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the good news is there's lots of laws that are changing here recently where now those facilities are being, let's say, encouraged to have those dogs be given to specialized rescue or sanctuaries to be able to give those dogs like a second chance of life.
Yeah.
Because when they're in there, like honestly, they're just in the kennels. They never see daylight. Oftentimes, they never see grass. They're just a number.
Yeah.
So again, our part of it is after these dogs are released, well, how do we help them understand the world that they're now in? Because again, they don't understand.
They've never been dogs.
They've never been
never been
dogs.
dogs.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's really what we do. So we are kind of the official training company of these rescue organizations, again, in the United States and now in Canada, to help with that rehabilitation while they're in that, let's say, decompression phase while they're within the care of the rescue or the sanctuary organization. And then we work with the adopters and the fosters and help with that transition into the home. So high level, that's really what we do, and that's all testament to Chelsea's experience in working with these dogs.
I want to ask, piggyback off of that. We did our research, of course, before you came on, and right big on the website, it says, we didn't set out to build this. The work found us. Can you explain
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a dog training company here in the Charlotte area called Command Canine, and we have been doing that for 10 years now. And one of the main things we do in there is behavioral training. So with that reputation, working with different rescues up here, we had a colleague ask us to help a friend of hers who had two former research dogs from in Vigo, which is a large-scale breeding facility that got closed down. This couple had two in Vigo beagles, had been through several different trainers, and had no luck. They were just told to isolate the dogs forever, or rehome one, or euthanize them. So I said, absolutely, I'll try my best. And that's how I kind of got introduced to this world, because I think like a lot of different people, we know somewhere in the back of our head that we test on animals. But we I think personally that I just didn't think about it. I chose not to think about it. I think of like, we just put makeup on them, so then when I got introduced to the world, it really pulled at me, and I helped this couple, and these dogs made this miraculous change, and then they told other people they knew, and I just started helping more and more of them. And in doing so, I was looking into who's helping these people, like what information are these rescues giving them? Do trainers know about this? And there was essentially nothing, no information to help these people. I use the phrase, I don't know who was helping these people with a dog who has PTSD, who won't eat, won't play with a toy, and won't go anywhere near them. Like, how do these adopters help them? So that's when I was like, you know what? I think I have a really good set of skills. I think we have the ability to do this. And that's kind of how I found what I consider now my life's work.
I love that. I do want to ask a question, though, because seeing this, it's really astounding, because you don't usually think about dogs being tested, right? You think of animals just like in general. Yeah. Why beagles?
Yeah, great question. Everything good about a beagle is why beagles. There's a really good book called Lab Dog. It's written by Melanie Kaplan. It just came out last fall, and if anyone wants to dive into this world and learn more about those type of questions, I always recommend reading that, because she has way more information than I do. But beagles are called the gold standard because they were used way back in the day. Because they are small, you can house several of them together. You can pick them up. They're docile. They usually don't fight back, and they're very forgiving. So they were used back in the day, and then they became just this gold standard because that's what other studies were using. So it was easy to compare, and now it's just kind of what generally is used.
Right. Sometimes I feel like, with all this technology and stuff, you're like, why are we still using live animals, right? When you do go to, because we do have pictures of you in these different facilities, these testing areas, is it just astounding to know a human is able to do this to, these beagles? Yeah.
It's, that's a loaded question. I think humans are very interesting. And this isn't my world exactly, dealing with that part of this. So I don't know if I may be the best person to ask these questions, but it's hard to imagine doing something like that to a dog. Yes. Yeah. I've seen the other side of it, where these people think that they're doing right by humanity. Of course, you have your personal and your professional opinions on those things, but really, I just like to think, there are experts who know more than I do about this situation. I by no means know what it's like to be that person working in that facility. All I know is when that dog gets out, that's where my expertise comes in, and that's when I can step in and do what I consider my part to help them.
And I'll kind of piggyback off what she said. The interesting thing to your question, Megan, which is, yes, the technology that is coming out, everybody, of course, you just throw the term out there, AI. Sure, great. And yeah, that is having an impact on this whole field and there's a lot of questions being asked now of like, how much do we really need this? Could we potentially get even better results and more results by utilizing AI models?
Sure.
And so the good part of that is now there are more and more, I guess, support behind not having to do that is allowing us to work with more and more of these dogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, that is the question that's happening right now, and that is actually it's like kind of tipping this whole thing on its ear. Yeah. So yeah, good things are changing, or good things are happening.
Good.
So what is the first step for these dogs? They've never, some of them maybe have never touched grass, or have never seen a leash, never looked at stairs, never been around stairs.
Yeah.
What is the first step?
I like the first step to be in the sanctuary. I call it, and the term is terrible, and it's such a, it's undervaluing what the sanctuary is, but the sanctuary to me is a halfway house.
Okay.
It is their landing place. It is not as much like a home as a home, but it isn't the facility that they were in, right? So when they get to that sanctuary, there are caregivers, there are other dogs, you know, and they spend a good couple of weeks in shock. And it's hard. They don't want anything to do with people, or they're fawning all over people.
Can't blame them.
And then, you know, typically, depending on honestly where the dogs come from, is depending on what kind of personalities we see more often. But after the first week or so, we like to take them out into the grass, and they get put in the grass, and they're usually very, very nervous and overwhelmed, and then you see them take off, and they start running and zooming. And it's sad because they've never been on that type of terrain before, so they'll tear their paw pads, or they'll start limping around. But other than that, really the first couple of weeks are learning what this world is, like smelling the wind and the caregivers. And when we are at the sanctuary, we just sit with them. A lot of them don't want us to touch them at all. They're so shut down. So we'll sit with them and we'll talk to them, or we'll read a book out loud, or just getting them used to this world. And then you start to see them open up, and that brings good and bad behaviors, of course. But usually I like a good several weeks of decompression, lots of sleep, lots of understanding of this little piece of their new life.
And is this sanctuary in Charlotte, or is it somewhere else?
We work with a couple of different sanctuaries. The main one, I would say even the biggest one in the United States, is out in Wyoming, and that's where we go several times a year.
Wide open.
Yep, it is wide open. It's really windy out there, and that really, it's a lot for the dogs, that wind.
Yeah, so that's one of our bigger partners, Kindness Ranch, is out in Wyoming. We also work with organizations in Canada, and recently this topic has been getting a little bit more light than normal because of what happened in Madison, Wisconsin.
Right.
And there was a breeding facility by the name of Ridgeland Farms, and there's a lot of events that happened, but the end of that story was about 1,500 dogs were released and sent to multiple different rescue organizations all across the United States. Now those organizations have heard about our work, and they're starting to reach out to us. So we're really starting to work with multiple different organizations all throughout the U.S.
Wow.
How many dogs were involved in that in the Madison?
And about 1,500 were released.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Matt, do you have any? How many dogs do you have personally?
Our together?
Yes.
We have one dog.
Really? I'm curious to know if you're
We have
surrounded
one
by them, like, you know.
No, we have one dog. He's 10. He's an old hound, spoiled, sits on the couch all day. And it's, you know, when we go out to these facilities, it's there's always one dog who tries to negotiate coming back to North Carolina with us.
I'm sure.
But we're like, you know what? It's so much work to have one of these dogs that we just don't have the time to put into it right now.
Yeah.
I would rather help the masses than, you know, the one right now. But there will be ones at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break right now, but stick with us right here on Brag About It, because we got a lot more questions coming up.
Welcome back to Brag About It. I'm Carleen Bragg with my good sis Meghan Bragg. We are here with the lovely people of Keeper and Kin and Command Canine.
Yes.
Doing a lot of good work with animals and pets and dogs who need it most. Want to ask about, we were during the break kind of talking about the process for these beagles after the research facilities, like when they get out, especially when they go to the fosters and the different organizations that kind of rescue them. It seems like it's a full-time job to acclimate these dogs into the real world after you even get to the sanctuary.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for the people doing it, and that's what Keeper and Kin. The name Keeper is the people doing the work. So Keeper is, you know, I would consider people who work at the sanctuary, whether it's the volunteers or it's the adopters or whatever. They're the keepers, and that's a very difficult job for them. I mean, this is a dog who has no understanding of the world, so they get to the home and the air conditioner kicks on and they have a mental breakdown. You can't walk them on a leash, but you can't let them in the backyard because they're afraid to come back through the doorway. So we spend a lot of our time coaching them virtually throughout the first year, honestly, that they have this dog, and it goes through these different ups and downs through its new life.
What's the craziest story, I guess, you've ever heard about, like one of the dogs? Maybe a difficult behavior or something like that?
Miraculous comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always these weird things that these dogs do, which you can't blame them for. But I have one dog I'm working with now who, for some reason, is so petrified of the kitchen sink. And this poor couple has an island. And so this dog almost like walks the perimeter of the living, like open concept and then an island. And this dog just won't go near the sink. And of course, you know, you try to think of why that is, but they've never done like a loud garbage disposal or anything in their house. So that's a strange one. There's a lot of things like that, afraid of, you know, if you move a lamp in the room, or you know, a lot of them won't eat unless it's dark out, or they won't go potty unless it's on concrete.
Yeah.
You know, those type of things. Going up and down the stairs, very difficult for all of them. Going through doorways, very difficult for all of them.
So during the break, we were also talking about obedience training versus behavioral training. Can you explain to people like what is the difference between those two terms?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when most people think of dog training, right, they think of obedience training, you know,
Yes.
teaching your puppy how to sit and stay, and that's great. I mean, we all want an obedient dog who's
Yeah.
listening to what we want them to do, right? I always say obedience training teaches your dog what to do, but real behavioral training changes how they feel inside. And obviously, when you're talking about these research beagles, they are traumatized. They have an incredible amount of fear, anxiety, stress, lack of confidence. Those are all feelings and emotions, right?
Yeah.
So all the obedience training in the world, that's not fixing what their core issue is here. And even alluding to what Chelsey was just mentioning about a fear of a sink in the middle of the island. Okay, if I teach a dog how to go to place or how to sit, that's not resolving their fear of that. So behavioral coaching is really what we do. And I think it's also important to mention behavioral training, behavioral coaching is very relationship based. And what I mean by that is I could send the best trainer in the world, I think it's Chelsey,
Yeah.
into your home and work with your beagle or your dog. And that's great, but what ends up happening, especially for the behavioral, the fear type things, that's just going to develop a relationship between Chelsey or the trainer and your dog. And that doesn't necessarily translate to you as much as obedience skills do. So what we do is, through the virtual coaching, is we're showing you the thing to do, and you're helping your dog get over those emotional hurdles, and not us. And believe it or not, like that really accelerates the progress and makes it a lot more permanent, a lot more long term.
And I love the fact that you keep shouting out Chelsey here for being an
I know,
excellent
he's a
trainer,
great
because
supporter.
because I was going to say to Chelsey, so you said you kind of fell into this, you know, the beagles and the keepers and kin, but for 10 years you've been doing, is it 10 years, right? You've had this business to help train dogs. What made you want to get into that here in Charlotte?
Well, when I was a child, I really wanted to be a vet, and graduated school and did not take that route. And then it kind of came back around, 10, 11, 12 years ago, where I was like, I think I'm going to go try to be a vet, and I started looking into it a little bit more and realized I really did not like the anatomy portion of animals. I really found myself drawn to the psychology part of it. And then I realized, like, oh, there's dog training, and I didn't really know anything about dog training at the time. So I went and I did some apprenticeships and some mentorships and got into the world that way. Can go down this rabbit hole, but there's a variety of different techniques in dog training, and I tried to learn everything I could and figure out what fit me the best, and went from there. And then I'm just a type A research fanatic, and I spent so long researching behavior. There's virtually no information out there about dog behavior, dog PTSD, so I had to go into the human world and learn a lot of what I know. And I'm so enthralled by helping these dogs psychologically, that, I think dog training is a very small world of what I consider, what Keeper and Kin and Command Canine do at this point.
Yeah. Wow.
You're obviously clearly a very experienced dog trainer, helping people understand their dog, whether it's behavior or obedience training. How do you help people when they get this dog not be overwhelmed by the dog, and also don't want to overwhelm the animal either? How do you kind of toe that line?
Yeah. It's hard. It's also, honestly, and any dog trainer in the entire world will tell you this, but being a dog trainer is so much about the person, and you almost are a therapist, because you have to deal with the person's emotions. You have to deal with their marital problems. You have to deal with encouraging them to do things, and how do they tell their kids to do things. You know, there's all these different things. So that, from the beginning of dog training, was something that, you know, all of us dog trainers have to deal with. But it's a hard balance. There's so much information I want to give. So finding the right amount to give that person, and also letting them know, like, hey, this is just the tip of this. You're going to do this for a couple of weeks, and then we're going to build on this, and we're going to keep going. And what I like to do is give them some things that will help short term and some things that will help long term, because long term is going to be the permanent stuff. But if we just do long term stuff, they're going to get so discouraged because they're not seeing anything happen. So if I can give them some easy wins at the beginning, then that helps them be more motivated to do the things that actually are going to stick.
When you when I saw my dog sit for the first time, I'm like, you are a genius.
You
know what I mean?
This dog an Oscar. Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. Watching them learn.
Yes,
it's so
it really
cool.
is. So, no, I get the small wins, because in my house it's very small.
Yeah.
I need that for myself too. Like, I need that little bits of positive reinforcement every day.
That's why we brag about it. We big and small.
Let's talk about how great we are.
I talk about my thrift store vibes. We celebrate those things.
I mean, that is a really great thing to brag about.
Right?
I'm impressed with it. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back, and it's the moment you've been waiting for, where we get to brag about it. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to Brag About It. It's time to brag about it.
It's time
Chelsey
to do
and
it.
Tony, take it away.
Let's go.
Okay, so what do we have to brag about? Look, I guess I'll say it this way. I'm really proud of the yin and yang that Chelsey and I are, our relationship. You know, it can be challenging to work with your spouse in a business. I mean, we work with each other all day long and all night long, and we spend a lot of time with each other. And but we've been able to navigate through the hard parts and build the company of Command K9 here locally, and build an outstanding reputation here locally in Charlotte, and to serve the community and help people with their dogs, see those breakthroughs. That's really awesome. But to do it with your wife is it's just really cool. And I don't think a lot of people get to,
I know. I'm like crying over here.
I love.
Yeah, that was sweet.
That's what I'm most proud of. That's what I'll brag about.
Yay.
Gosh, I have so many things I want to say about myself. Just kidding.
Listen, you can.
You know, one of the things that I think is really hard for people to understand, unless you're an entrepreneur, it's very hard to understand just the hell that entrepreneurs go through. And Tony and I both are entrepreneurs. We have been our entire lives together. And, you know, when things aren't going the way that you see them going for maybe other people or on TV or whatever, it's hard to wake up every day and push towards a goal when you give it your all. And we do it, and we have been doing it forever, and there's no other choice. But so I'm just really proud of us, pushing through, and every time we feel like we're out of gas, we find something that helps us. And luckily we're in the dog world, and that's motivation enough. But I'm super proud of that, and it's hard for other people who aren't entrepreneurs to really get that. So that, to me, is really, really impressive about what we do. And then, you know, just where we are in the career of dogs. I think this journey of helping research dogs is so unique. It's a great story. It's a hard thing to do as the dog, as the sanctuary, as the foster adopter, as the trainer, the coach. It's a very, very difficult thing to do for a very, very difficult dog. But there is so much reward that comes out of it. So just getting, to where we are this year really kind of things have changed for us. Keeper and Kin became an actual, business within the last year, and we were in a documentary earlier this year. Thank you. We have a podcast coming out. We're just kind of like getting into the world, and I'm really happy that, honestly, 10 years of work we're starting to do more things, and we're starting to have the platform to help more and more people and more dogs.
Good.
And bring awareness to this
absolutely.
cause.
Yeah. Yep.
I do have to say, because we do also like to brag about our guests in here, and I think it's so special that, first of all, like you were saying, it's so hard to be an entrepreneur, especially in today's world. But second, you're doing it with such a good cause behind it. And they always say, they talk about the Rainbow Bridge. I know all about it, but I do have to say, you guys are going to have a lot of dogs running to you because of how many you've helped. So I think that is such a beautiful thing, especially helping animals that can't help themselves. So we are really proud of you guys, and so happy you're on Brag About It.
Please come back.
Yeah.
We want updates. We send pictures.
I know.
We are dog people. We love to see people care so much.
Thanks. Well, thank you for having us.
And where can people check you out? Not only if they want a beagle or foster a beagle, but also too if they need training for their dogs here in Charlotte.
Yeah, if you are interested in the beagle situation, our website is keeperandkin.dog. Keeperkin with K's, of course. Instagram, keeper.and.kin. And then here in the Charlotte area, Command K9 is the name of our dog training business. Website's commandk9.dog, and Instagram is command.k9.
Awesome.
All right,
Great.
guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was Brag About It. We'll see you next week.